I will. Hello, I'll call the Public Works Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Cindy,
Here.
Seth,
Here.
Todd,
Here.
Andrew,
Here.
and Tanya. Here.
First period for public comment. No one is here in the house. Is anyone online who would like to speak?
We do have one person online, but it does not look like they're interested in making a comment at this time.
Okay, approval of committee minutes from October 21st, 2025. We don't have Crystal here, so it's up to you.
Tanya, I'll move approval.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, Tanya, welcome back, by the way, Tanya. Tanya makes a motion, a second by Todd. Anybody have any questions or discussion about the minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Review and approval of pay request number 4. I don't have my amended one up, but is that what's next on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, Center Avenue project. Sarah.
All right. So for a couple reasons, I tried to get Badger to get this in before, like this was a pretty quick turnaround from we just approved pay request number 3. But Matthew was in, which is always a big bill. And in 2 weeks, I won't be here for a week. So even though we could work around it, I said, if you got it, bring it. So that's why you see them so quickly. Normally we're on a monthly schedule. Okay, so this one is pretty straightforward. The previous pay request took care of like the underground work. This one was basically building the road and the multi-use path and doing all of the asphalt concrete work that we see out there now. So I'm happy to stop and go through anything, but it's more or less quantities for the asphalt road surface, quantities for the pavement. That's the multi-use path. And in here it calls it a sidewalk and was mostly just to have less complications when we talk to grant agencies, because it did go in the same place as the current sidewalk. And sometimes they don't like new things, they like replacements of things. Driveways and driveway aprons, the warning ramps, those are like the little yellow metal bumpy things that are giving people a warning that they're coming to a crossing of a street.
Said they're metal?
Yeah.
Ah.
And we always do a televising of sewers when they get put in, make sure there's nothing weird happening in there. So that's what that's for. And that's basically it for this pay request. This is, if you remember, we changed some of the driveways to like have asphalt all the way through instead of having concrete through. So that's why it's in these change order areas.
Yeah, I just walked up that this evening, so. before-
It really does when I walked, so I did as well. My kid biked and I walked, which is always nice because I think it's one thing to walk, but rolling, like if you have a stroller or a wheelchair or, and a bike, it really makes a difference on asphalt versus concrete. And I guess one of the things I note is it'll really be nice when the green line is there for those places where there's asphalt on either side, just to help delineate where the path is. So,
Yeah, no, it's great.
okay. So yeah, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer, but more or less it's a bunch of road and surface stuff. And so the current payment due is $109,441.51.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, discussion?
Todd will make a motion. Pay it.
Oh, it's amount.
What?
She wants the.
Oh, I
amount.
gotta read that? Okay,
Oh, I'll
$109,441.51.
I didn't want to change it while you were reading it.
AJ, I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Todd, second by AJ. I just wanted to thank Sarah again for all your hard work and all the meetings we had about this and to see it now done and well, not completely done. but
Almost there.
Man, we're.
The road is excellent.
Yeah.
The
it's-
walking trail, I'm not gonna use that, but
Everyone has their preference.
But no, I looked at the other side and I see the, all that stuff we had to iron out. It's just so nice to see it
Good.
come to fruition. Okay, roll call.
Seth,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Tanya. Aye. And Cindy.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, review and approval of pay request number 3, salt shed project.
Okay, so for the most part, this is the final pay request for the salt shed. It does not include releasing the retainage. This pay request is so much more straightforward than the ones we typically see, where they just have some really general descriptions as opposed to a lot of detail. And so this is the final payment, so to speak. Nope, the final pay request. The next pay request, this is confusing. This is all of the work, 100% of the work is in this. However, what is not included is the retainage. The retainage is being held until the punch list items are finished. So there's a number of things that we have on the punch list still, nothing huge, but essentially the work is more or less done. I think Todd's been down there.
Yeah, did they show up today? Tyrell told me they were.
They were not here today.
Okay, all right.
So they have a bunch of things they have to like clean up, really. There's a lot of cleanup down there. I think it was kind of confusing because there was the folks from the apartment building, and then so they had trailers down there and equipment down there, and these guys had equipment down there, and then people pulled out, and it's like, oh, whose stuff is that? But largely will be taken care of. Anything that is extra is going to be taken by the city. So like there's even just like plywood or 2x4s and things like that that we'll be holding on to for whatever might come our way in the future. So
It's nice.
yeah, what a
Nice.
big change.
Yeah, I said, I wished I had that one. They said, that's what I said. You guys get the fancy stuff. I was here. We never had anything like that.
Oh, but we had a purple dump truck, if you remember.
Purple, purple.
Purple one? Yeah, okay. All right, you got me.
You did get, yeah. Oh, boy. Okay, so this is the remaining work minus the retainage. It would be 153,850. Did I say 3?
Yeah.
154,850.
Okay, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion, do what Sarah said with Sarah, the $850.
You want to approve pay
Yeah,
request
there we
number
go.
3
Okay,
for
I
the
knew I
salt
shouldn't-
shed project.
Yeah, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone now, ain't I?
Just read, a lot of times if you just read, I'm famous for screwing it up, but if you just read what the line says. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Well, that's good to have a copy of the agenda. Yeah, the agenda line then it goes. Okay, we have a motion by Todd. Anybody want to second it?
Zadie, I'll second.
AJ seconded it. Any further discussion? It's wonderful. It's great. It's going to be good this winter. Roll call.
Todd,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Tanya. Aye. Cindy
Aye.
and Seth.
Aye.
Motion carries. Discussion with possible action on SFMA from DOT regarding the regarding the Main and County BB intersection upgrade.
So I have to apologize. I told Lori that it was SFMA and it's SMFA,
Can you tell us what it stands?
State Municipal Financial Agreement. And so just to give you a background of what on earth we're talking about, let's see. Now I need to make sure I've got the right thing. Okay, so earlier this year, when we were given notice that the Walmart intersection got funded through HISP, we also got word that County BB intersection got funded, and I was just shocked because I had no idea about this project. And so it's taken, if they were like, okay, we're ready to go, it's going to start this year. And we're like, wait a minute. Can we have some time to think about what's going on here? And so that is why we have been holding on to this for so long. Was just to try to get our head around it and make sure that this was something that we wanted to move forward with. So the reason that we didn't know about it is because essentially what the concern is that it's a negative left-hand turn configuration. So I should have pulled this up earlier. But it basically is how the left-hand turn lanes line up with each other. All right, let me move some of this stuff so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so if you look closely, these left-hand turn lanes, they don't line up directly across from each other. So what happens is when you're turning left, when you're not directly across from the traffic, it's harder to see around that you are free to turn left. And so as a whole, the industry has moved from these, what they call a negative offset left-hand turn to either direct, like a zero directly in front of it, or even positive, meaning it's like even further over so that you actually are almost looking straight down the lane that's going straight, not the lane that's turning left. And so Brad Byam, who is like our traffic safety engineer in the area, had picked a whole bunch of these in the region and grouped them together and then pushed them through the HISIP process, like in order that he had. And so, I don't think he was intending to surprise us with it, but it was just, it wasn't something that was like an individual Viroqua project. It was, oh, it's turn for these negative left-hand turn lanes to go through. So that's why we see it. So HISIP is always a really great program for the city in terms of like when these safety improvements need to be done. The funding ratios are great. So it gives a little bit of this need like we were just talking about. It's a main connecting highway. It's got these negatively offset left-hand turn lanes. There's been 19 crashes of varying severity reported in a 5-year analysis period with 7 injuries. So they'll rank injuries higher than they will like just somebody getting in a crash. So long story short, they're looking at installing or realigning those left-hand turn lanes. And in doing so, they want to use what's called a monotube. So if you look at how the intersection is right now, you can see like these lights are sitting in the medians. And obviously, since they're going to be more or less eliminating the medians or moving them over, where are you going to put your lights? So then those monotubes are like that large, it's like a pole on the side and this really large spanning light structure. And then it's got the lights on top of it that go right over top of the lanes. It's really sort of what they go to nowadays as a rule because they're eliminating these medians that they have in the middle with the lights on it. The other really big win for us, I would say, is the cabinet that's up here has been identified as needing to be updated. It's over 20 years old. And even though it looks like a tiny little cabinet, it's enormously expensive to replace it. And they're going to replace it as a part of the project. So those would be like the 2 big wins, I think, in the situation. I don't know that, I mean, it's going to be a safer intersection to turn left in. They don't typically like fix our concrete pavement unless it's somewhere where they're already moving, but they're going to be basically like redoing the lights. Now they're still in the design phase. And so they told me they're unsure exactly how these left-hand turn lanes are going to be changed in terms of like whether these lights will stay there, but definitely the main line will have that. So what the HISIP program looks like in this version is it would be a DOT-let project, which means I don't have to do any work more or less, which is great. I have experienced it when they have a locally let project, and I would say I would always consider it, but I've found that it just means I have to do more work and they get to tell me what I have to do. Like I don't have a lot of latitude about the process. And so it's kind of frustrating because I'm constantly checking in with them and it's like, why don't you just do this? Especially since they, depending on the project. With Main Street, the HISIP project, I tried to do a lot of HR stuff, or not HR, PR stuff because they really kind of just dropped the ball. But in this, it's such a small thing. Like we can tell people that construction's happening, but it's not like changing people's traffic patterns or something like that. So what they're asking for, they have this as a $1.8 million project, which I think is incredible, but that's just how they do it, which would be a 25% design charge to the city, locally funded. And then they have some money in there for like if our water valve is in the wrong spot and needs to be altered or something like that, adjusted, we would end up paying for that too. So that's what that $1,000 and $1,000 or that $1,000 that they have there. So for $60,000 of city contribution, then obviously we would get the project done. So, like I said, we've been holding off for a while. I think this does make sense. We did push them off because they wanted to start working on it this year, which means we'd have to start paying part of our amount this year, but obviously we don't have that budgeted for, right? I mean, this is something that takes for the DOT, $60,000 doesn't seem like such a big deal because we're paying like 3% of the total project. But for us, that is a big deal. We don't just have $60,000 sitting around waiting. And so Nate and I had talked about this previously, when things were looking a little rosier for TID 7. We had a little conversation about that today, but I think the moral of the story is that we would just make a point of ensuring they are looking at 2027 for that we would have funding available. Is that about right?
Right. So this doesn't need to be paid right away, but we do need to commit to it at this point. We have not completed our capital improvement plan, but the general philosophy that we were walking into the capital improvement plan was that we would allocate a certain dollar amount to public works projects in general, and then Sarah would have the ability to use that pool of money to get as many projects done as possible. And so of that, $60,000 is not a majority share or really a large share. It does matter, but I think based on my understanding of the capital improvement plan and the contribution that TID 7 was willing to make to that it's still very much available. It's just we're again continuing to be out ahead of the capital improvement plan at this point. But if this was a $600,000 project, we'd be having a very different conversation. But the value of it, especially when Sarah talks about things like the cabinet that needs replacement anyway, is hard for us to pass up, right? We're getting value and then some on this. So I would agree with her what she says, and the financing will be there.
Anybody else have any questions about this?
When is the Walmart intersection? Is that 2027 as well?
So construction is supposed to be 2027.
So would these two things be planned and try to accomplish at the same time?
Well, so
Discussed.
we end up paying for the design side on both of them. So we're already starting to get small bills for the Walmart intersection. We would end up paying for our portion to connect into that, but that's, I would say, kind of rolled into the Hanson Farm funding,
What's that?
connecting to Main Street.
I mean, all of it is part of TID 7 at the end of the day, but whether or not the Walmart intersection is not officially a part of the Hanson Farm project, connecting the stub off of it.
Right.
Correct.
Mhm.
So I think your question was about sequencing more than it was about funding.
Yeah, my question was about the traffic patterns and the traffic
Oh,
flows on
sure.
it and the
Yeah,
plan for
so
that.
we do not intend to connect to Main Street with the Hanson Farm project until the intersection lights are up. And that would be 2027. This would be 2029 work.
Oh,
Oh, I thought you said 2027.
2027 is when we start paying.
Oh.
oh
Oh.
gosh.
I thought.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, they're
my
even
God.
2 years from design to construction.
So if you had acted on it right away, would it have been 28?
It would have been 27. Yeah, because
Oh.
it's 25
They've
money.
been talking about, oh,
Yeah, they were
My
gonna, they
goodness.
were gonna coincide in terms of both happening at the same time. But, I mean, same year,
huh.
but we weren't ready for
Oh,
that.
okay.
We had anticipated the Walmart intersection because we were pushing for it.
So design of this is 2027, actual build and completion is 2029.
29.
Huh. Okay,
They move slowly.
so you need us to approve this going ahead?
Yeah, so we would sign this state municipal financial agreement.
Would you want the dollar amount with that one?
And
No.
yeah, the local contribution's probably a number you want in there, that's 60,300.
Yeah, and this would be forwarded to council for
Correct.
final
Right.
approval. So
Okay.
I'm sorry, the need for this was generated from the crash data?
That's what they identified as the safety hazard. So you can't get HISP money without a safety concern.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that the DOT goes about that is they want this crash analysis and
Mm-hmm.
proof, as well as the fact that,
But they generated it. We didn't say,
Oh,
hey,
correct.
can you check out our crash data for that intersection?
I did not verify
Always happy to
their-
have it. but
Yeah.
We didn't ask for it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see because they always use a 5-year analysis period, but they never include like the most recent year until it's complete. It's just this like weird. So it probably is, and I could look at it more carefully, but it's probably up to 23 data. So, yeah.
Okay, we're looking for a motion to approve if that's what we want to do.
This is AJ. I make a motion that we accept and forward on to council the SMFA from the DOT regarding the Main and County BB intersection upgrades to the tune of the municipality contribution of $60,300.
Todd, I'll second it.
Motion by AJ, second by Todd.
Did I get everything?
Yeah, any further discussion? And you even did the acronym right, right?
Thank you.
SMFA. Yeah. Roll call, please.
Andrew,
Aye.
Tanya,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
and Todd.
Aye.
Motion carries. Discussion with possible action on BUILD 2026 Bike Ped Grant application.
Okay, so the history on this is shortly after we did the bike and pedestrian plan, there was a federal program called RAISE. Normal acronyms that you would think of with the letter A's, and that was related to multimodal transportation, but there was a heavy interest on like greenhouse gas reduction and things like that. And then when the governance switched, it became build at about the 11th hour of the application that I was putting together. And the reason that I was going for this application was that a community of our size qualified for 100% funding. And you just never see that. So I thought, I'm just going to see what happens if we throw our hat in the ring, because we are literally competing on a national scale. So who knows? Unfortunately, with the build program, they greatly reduced the amount that they allotted, which was like about 10% of what it was originally. This was one of the hardest grant applications for me because I had to try to not redacted, but they crossed out all of these things that I'd been working on and put in new things. And I was like, I don't know if I'm saying what they want me to say or whatnot. Long story short, we didn't get funded. But then I shortly thereafter got a notice that we were considered a project of merit, which essentially means that of 800 applications in the nation, we were in the top 90. And then previously, they would use that list and funding would go to that list first for the next year. So like if as long as you qualified and still ranked highly enough, you would then get picked prior to another one that was ranked the same. So I went from kind of like, well, who knows, to feeling like we certainly have a better chance than I was thinking we did it originally. And so this is now come up again. They're going to have the NOFO, which is like the funding notice, come out in this month of November. And so I want to come back and make sure we were all on board with the idea that I apply for this again, because I would say, we're still only in the top 10%, but I would say that we're in a good spot. They weren't sure, so they give anyone that had a project of merit got a sort of like a debriefing with the folks that administer the grant, which I thought was kind of interesting that they were at work, because this was after everything got shut down. So to me, that means like this is still a priority. for the government and hopefully still is something they're going to be putting money into. It sounded like they were going back to some of the original funding amounts, which was a large funding amount. So like instead of, I think she said 30 projects of the 90 got funded. You know, if that full amount was there, we would have had a much better chance of getting funded. So we're back at that sort of full strength amount. So I wanted to walk through what this is and see what you think about applying again. So essentially there was like one area that they had noted that needed to be updated, but for the most part, we were meeting all of the highly recommended criteria. So what I had done is taken sort of like all of the projects. So this on the layer underneath is the projects and the bikes and pedestrian infrastructure we currently have. And then picked out the ones that some of them were like long-term projects that I've applied for probably the last 7-8 years to try to get funded. So that would be the County BB and Chicago Avenue loop. The idea was that we would put in a multi-use path. There's no sidewalk and nowhere to bike on both of those paths. And I think I remember the day that I was like, this has to change. I watched this lady with a walker walk on Chicago Avenue with traffic trying to go around her. And I'm just thinking, this is terrible. This woman needs to be able to have a safe place to walk, because it was when Quillen's and the grocery store was still in the north end of town. So that's one area. The other area that came up was what was the predominant area in the bike and pedestrian plan that everybody felt like needed a safer way, and because it was the route that kids were taking to school, and it's this West Broadway route. And so, excuse me, West Decker route and West Broadway. This is slightly different, but this is the one that folks really identified. Kids were traveling at, when they get out of school, at a tidal wave really of kids coming down the street, trying to get around folks. And then also one of those like major corridors that people tend to use because it's flat. Like if you drive down South Street, even though it's really nice because you're going down by the park and you're going down the ball fields and like kids use that, most people when they're going to the school are not going down South Street. They're going somehow, they're getting their way to West Decker and then they're making their way to the school. And so this one would be a bigger project where the recommendation out of the bike and pedestrian plan was to have an protected path, meaning not a sidewalk, not like a multi-use path that we have on Center Avenue, but an actually on the road, 2 lanes on one side that has like a median where people can bike and walk. Well, predominantly probably walk in that area. So I will say that this is not necessarily exactly what has to happen, but it is the first version of what we put forward. So part of all of this is it's a 5-year period of a project where you go and you do your consultation, people decide what they want to see, and then you proceed with whatever that plan is moving forward. West Broadway was putting like a multi-use path on it. Again, it's one of those routes to school, and there's a sidewalk on one side of the street. And then this was a Chicago Avenue. We kind of put 2 different versions in here because this is sort of like the straightforward, oh, go down Chicago Avenue, but this is where like the Hanson Farm is. And then we hit this waterway area where the old rail bed is, and coming down Rock Avenue by the apartments. Those things got brought up as like alternative options to each other. So we would have to explore which way we would want to go. So I put those in sort of as option 1, option 2, and then connecting all of this stuff, that last loop on Rock Avenue. So the funding for this would be literally that whole period of time. And public consultation, going through the process, designing it, building it over a 4 to 5 year period. So that is actually one of the things that they wanted me to fess out more, is that that's a lot of work in a short amount of 4 to 5 years. So they're like, can we do all of what we need to do and get all of it built? I think we certainly can, but it is that if we were to get awarded, this would be meaning, like, I would be spending a lot of time working through this. So, you don't have to make a decision today. You can take some time to think about it, but this is what I could spend some time fine tuning. It would definitely mean I'd need to spend some time getting the application, improving on the areas that they had commented on. It's about $5 million worth of work. The city, in the capital investment, would not have to have a match, but obviously the city has to operate it, right? So it's like, we have multi-use paths, we have to take care of multi-use paths. So something to think about. If I apply and we're awarded, we still have a choice about whether we want to apply for it. But I also don't like putting our hat in the ring and then being like, oh, we really weren't serious. Like, I feel like we want to move forward in this direction if we want to make this application, because I would say that based on what I see, we probably have a pretty good chance of getting an award.
Sarah, on West Decker, would the path go on the south side of the street?
Yeah, well, and that is all those kinds of things that
I mean,
we
that's where
still have
most
to work
kids,
out.
that's where everybody.
So it's one of the, so on the south side is where there isn't sidewalk. So it'd be an easier place to put something. But at the same time, it's not where the crossing.
What'd you say?
There's sidewalk all the way to Hillier, then Hillier to the school. The only place there's sidewalk would be on like Judy Milliken's side. There's no sidewalk on the north
Yeah,
side,
so like
right?
on West Broadway, right? You
Oh,
can
I
go.
was thinking of you just go straight into the school. I was thinking about going around the corner. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, so this has sidewalk on both sides of the street on West Decker. And then on Hillier, it's broken up. There's nothing on the
West.
east side of the street. And then when you get to Broadway, once you hit, I think there's sidewalk in front of the church. But then after that, there's no sidewalk. It's just retaining wall. And so it gets tricky because the DOT, if you remember, forced us to put the crosswalk on the, let me think about this now, south side of the intersection. So that might make sense, but then there's already established sidewalk and path on the north. So like those are we would be applying for doing all of this work through, like trying to figure out what makes most sense. We would have to do engineering and check the surveys, and like this is like super preliminary, but this would be these connections. So like one of the big things I kind of talked about would be the fact that, and why this was seen in favorably, is that County BB, Chicago Avenue, there is no bike or pedestrian accommodation in any way. Then even just like in that whole area from like where it joins up where the Hanson Farm is, there's almost no sidewalk in that whole area. It's like a sidewalk desert until you get to Broadway, and then you start having sidewalk. So that was like another big thing in the proximity to the school. And then obviously the school, that was one of the things like in the bike and pedestrian plan. It was, kids and getting to like natural areas and parks and things like that, that people found their biggest desire to use bike or pedestrian infrastructure. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. I tried to pick the like big highlights out of the bike and pedestrian plan rather than some of the smaller things that we had looked at, like not Abbey, or, we have things that we have a few places that are smaller projects, but these ones were the like main corridors to help connect some of what we already have, like on Rock Avenue or Northeast Avenue and that kind of thing.
The red part, there's room to have it there. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to go
Yeah,
close
that would be kind of cool.
to the main
yeah,
street apartment.
That's that whole thing. Like we'd have to walk through it.
Yeah.
There's right of way for stormwater, but there's not right of way for putting a bike trail. So we have to work with the property owners. And so,
So you-
it's a trend to go for old rail beds as where to put bike trails. And I think it's, we do road projects, so then we ask our question while we're doing road projects if we want it to have bike and pedestrian accommodations, but we don't have to restrict ourselves to bike and pedestrian facilities to only roadways, right? And so that's I think a really natural way to look at it. But again, there's lots that would need to be done to figure out what that looks like.
all you need from us tonight, or nothing
Yeah, I
necessarily.
don't need anything, but I would like direction about whether you want me to spend time on doing this, because
Oh,
it's not an enormous amount of time because I've already done a lot of it, but it still is time. And I would say if we're successful, which it looks like there's a very good chance we could be, we're going to have to be serious about whether we want to take this on or not. So I want everybody to be in the know.
this works towards the other bike and pedestrian plan. I mean, how do they?
This is literally pulled right out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're just getting more money for that.
Well, and that was exactly it. So I had the bike and pedestrian plan in hand, and we looked at the capital improvement plan, and all I could see was there's no real money for any of this, right? So it's like the only opportunity would be to go for the
Yeah.
100% funded projects. And I honestly was not expecting the results
Yeah.
that we got, because I thought there's like 800 applications, right? Like, I don't know. And the fact that larger communities that we're up against have to partially fund part of it, whereas we, just because of our size, only get 100% funding. And so like,
Oh, that's great.
it just seems kind of far-fetched, but now I'm realizing that we actually weren't too far off.
Apparently you figured out how to write the grant. So,
That answered my question. So I was like, if this gives us funding for the bike and pedestrian plan without having to dip from a different kitty, then I think this is 100%. We should
Yeah.
do this.
a no-brainer. Yeah.
The only question I had just kind of goes back to like the specifics of what's being implemented, right? Like how locked into any of this are we really? And as you said, like, you show that Chicago Avenue number 6 there. It's it'd be great if we could do that, but we haven't gone through the process of getting easements or anything else like that. So where we end up is very flexible from necessarily what we put into the grant right away.
Well, what I put into the grant was that we are just starting this process. And that was, like I said, one of the things that, like, when I had applied for this, we hadn't even approved the bike and pedestrian plan fully yet. It was
Yeah.
finished. And so there was a lot of, I mean, you just have to be transparent. We can't commit ourselves to something if we don't necessarily know the outcome. But I will say, like, for like Chicago Avenue and County BB, like, we've done a decent amount of rough work. And the same thing, like, I would say that through the bike and pedestrian plan, we've done a decent amount of rough work. We're certainly not committing ourselves to anything, but it's the probable route.
Okay, so we could make a motion for you to continue.
If you
on.
want to, yeah, absolutely.
Anyone want to make that motion?
So AJ, I make a motion that we move forward with the Build 2026 bike pedestrian grant application.
This is Tanya, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay,
Thanks.
discussion, yeah.
Where are we
East-
at for time? Okay.
East South Street reconstruction strategy for 2026.
Okay, so this came about in sort of our evolution of trying to figure out what our capital improvement plan has looked like. And when I originally had come forward with what was in the capital improvement plan a year ago, I separated East South Street as a project as itself, the 3-block project that we would do as a capital project. And I had focused attention about doing resurfacing work in other areas. Usually I look for a block that needs done and we do a block at a time. Given what I've seen that's come through, we obviously haven't finished our capital improvement plan. part of it is the fact that we're very busy, but also part of it is that there's a number of unknowns out there right now, like the landfill and things like that. And so it came to me that I feel like it would be smart, rather than me focusing on doing other smaller projects, that maybe East South Street should be the projects that I do sort of semi piecemeal, because they need to get done. We've got more projects than money, and I don't feel like they can wait that long. They're in pretty rough shape. So the blocks are like between Decker, I can pull up the map here, Decker and I believe it's Washington, 3 blocks. And so I guess the big deal in this is that we had, so here's this block here, these 3 blocks here. So why I want to make sure everybody's on the same page with this, besides the fact that like I'll come back obviously with bids and things like that, is that through the DOT, I have $17,000 roughly that was originally awarded to Prairie Windway. And we ended up doing Prairie Windway differently. It's not finished yet, but we decided to go seal coat version, and the LRIP or the DOT money would not accept seal coat as used for funding. And that's okay. I think we made a choice in conjunction with Sonia, who owns the back part of that property, that's kind of how she's probably envisioning it more anyway. It's a rural kind of cross section. It seems more naturally to be a seal coat road. So then I requested the DOT reallocate those funds, because I can ask this kind of pot of money, I can move around. And I had asked them to do Chicago Avenue, which was the block that I was looking at doing next. But East South Street is definitely worse than that block of Chicago Avenue. So if we want to go this path, which I would recommend, I'm going to go back to the DOT again and say, no, I want money to go to South Street. So I just want to make sure everybody's on board with that. I would also do another 2 things. One is try to figure out how much I can get done under our annual operating material maintenance fund. So that's normally what I would use for a resurfacing project. And that also is where the seal coating money is. As well as, I know I've asked this for a number of years, do a non-lapsing fund. So this year I had money put aside for Chicago Avenue out of our pot of money to also fund that resurfacing. And I'd like to lapse it so that I can sort of double up on funding next year, so that maybe we can do 2 blocks. So the one difference between this block and Chicago Avenue, for a number of years, we've been trying to find those resurfacing projects that are really straightforward. So like we might need to do a little bit of base road building work, but for the most part, we're just tearing the road off and we're repaving. Not a lot of curb work or sidewalk work. We might replace a little bit here and there, but we're not really redoing it. We may be able to get away with it a little bit on parts of South Street, but South Street does need curb repair. So it is going to be slightly more than our standard project, but I would still keep it within the budget that we have. So I guess the long and short of it is just looking for your blessing that I'm going to stop worrying about Chicago Avenue, and I'm going to focus our efforts for the pools of money we have through the material maintenance fund to see how much I can get done out of East South Street, because I just don't think, when I look at that pot of money that is likely allocated to the Public Works Department for street projects and the capital improvement plan, that we can do all of them. And this is one I think we can manage outside of that.
Do you need that lapsing fund idea to be part of this? Or is that a
Not
separate
yet,
thing?
because I need to know the exact amount, and I will get all that for
Okay.
you, but I just want you to know what my intention is.
Okay,
I'm going to
So-
try to like basically move resources that I have and focus them here so that I can get this job done without having to go through the capital improvement project.
okay. So
Funding.
anyone want to make a motion or about Sarah pressing on with East South Street reconstruction strategy?
I'll make a motion to approve what Cindy just said.
Material, you want to use funding for
Can I do that?
materials and
Material
Maintenance.
maintenance funding, yeah. And then also request this be our DOT funded project.
I don't second it.
Wasn't sure on how to word that.
yeah. You don't need a roll
Okay.
call? A
I
little
need you
bit,
to just hold on because I'm not sure what this motion really means.
Okay.
So you're wanting to use material maintenance funding towards the
east-south.
east-south street projects.
Correct.
And what was with the DOT?
I'm not even sure it needs to be a part of the motion, but I would request that the local DOT funding have a project change, essentially is what it is.
Cause is that $17,000 that was originally allocated for what?
Chicago.
It's been changed twice now.
Right,
Originally it was
right.
Prairie Wind Way, and then we requested it go to Chicago Avenue. I would then again go back to them and say, we're gonna do South Street.
So. I was following,
Thank
but I
you.
just wanted to repeat it. No.
I appreciate it. Sometimes
It
it's
is,
convoluted.
it is elaborate, but that's the $17,000 that would also be. We would tell the DOT we're moving it to South Street
Yeah.
instead.
If possible.
I'm trying to bring it all together,
Yeah.
and so I.
Can we
get
just
this
back
done.
up a minute? Because if you don't know exactly how much that, if it's just approximately 17,000, if
Oh,
you
I
don't
can
know the
give you
exact amount,
yeah.
I want that exact amount in there because if you're going to start using non-lapsing funds and things like that, I want to know for
The
sure.
non-lapsing fund amount will come later.
Right, I get that, but I don't know what you had originally for the DOT, and that's what I want to make sure is in this motion in order to be able to follow the cash, because this is really complicated at this point. So I just want to make sure.
We don't
that I
even
know-
have to put the DOT thing in, because I don't need approval to ask for it to be changed if it makes it easier for you.
Okay, so if you want to say to just use material maintenance funding towards East-South Street projects,
That
then we'll
should
leave
be
it at
fine.
that.
Okay.
Is that okay,
Is that
AJ?
okay, AJ?
I'll amend my motion to that.
I'll second to that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. I guess all ayes. I don't even have to say no's. Okay, motion carries. Update on DNR water system sanitary survey.
Okay, well, I felt like we always got these serious topics. It's still a serious topic, but some good news. So every 3 years we do a sanitary survey. So the DNR comes and basically goes through every single part of the water system, like every single part. And they doesn't usually give us a lot of notice. I mean, they did give us notice, but they're like, hey, we're coming next week. We need you to gather a stack of information for us, which we did. And I would say, they go through the condition of everything, our records on everything as it relates to operations. So it wouldn't necessarily be, are you billing as a utility in a specific way? Like, it's not a PSC thing. This is like compliance maintenance for the operation of the water system. And we've been working on improving things over the years, but I would say this year was the first time in like 14 going on 15 years that we never had anything that they noted needed to be done, essentially. That we have no what they call deficiencies. We have nothing out of compliance and violations. They, like I said, went through every part of the system. The only thing they recommended was that we just make sure that our undersized mains that we report to the PSC are updated, because there's less than what's on that number. But we have no non-conforming features. They went through everything. We go to every single well, every single water tower. And I thought it was just a nice nod to the water system. So obviously that's me, but it's also Greg and our other water operator in training. So that's Jared. Brock contributes to this as well. And then like all of the other guys we have there, right? So Louis and Michael, everybody contributes to this being successful, right? So they said that we had no deficiencies, and happy to report that There were no issues and applaud the city's efforts in maintaining a clean and secure system. So I thought it was nice to toot our horn a little bit. So,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. You guys deserve it because I sit in on these utility meetings and I know how much effort goes into all this kind of stuff. Yeah, that's just amazing. It's remarkable. That's what it is. How much
Thank you,
they have to
Cindy.
do. Yes. Okay,
Happy to answer questions about it, but I just wanted to make sure you were
Yeah.
aware.
okay, 10 minutes left. Construction project update.
Okay, let's see. Oh, well, obviously we sort of talked about what we already had for pay requests. So the salt shed is more or less done. There's some pretty small punch list items that need to be taken care of. And then we can start, we have some salt already, so we can start putting some sand salt mixture in there and things like that. And we will order salt before the end of the year with whatever funds we have left in that account. We've got Center Avenue. We've been down there and now it's finally open after all this time. It had been open sort of, but we were trying to prevent more damage of the asphalt for like Best Box and Nelson. So we didn't really want people traversing over the gravel to the asphalt area. The only thing that remains that's going to be done possibly this year is there's one property that we got in pretty far that we're going to probably have to put a retaining wall in. So it sucks, but it's necessary. We definitely always leave properties the way they were before or better. The other thing that I'm getting geared up for is construction wise is the Hanson Farm. We're going to have a pre-construction meeting next week. And then I would say expect to see action out there within a week and a half to 2 weeks. So they've been waiting to make sure that the contract was signed so that they can order all the materials. So they're waiting for that to happen. But once that happens, you're going to see a lot of things going on out there. Construction project. I think that's it for construction projects.
Street and utility department updates. How's Cheryl doing?
I don't know. She went in today. I haven't heard word.
Cheryl had surgery today.
Yeah, so let's see, quick and well, I guess I
You have
have,
until 6.
I'm doing great for time.
Oh, thought-
Usually I'm rushing. Not that we shouldn't finish, but I'm not as rushed. Okay. So continue to spend a lot of time at the landfill, trying to make sense of all the things that are not always conforming to what we'd like it to. We've been reporting more regularly to the DNR, so we had to submit a plan 2 weeks ago, and then just also today submitted what happened when Mike came out here. So if you remember, Mike came out with Josie and they went through, did a bunch of things that we don't normally do, trying to like help better understand the situation. So they were out there and we've been doing some stuff, but I would say I get the feeling we're pretty close to sort of what the next step is. Like Mike's kind of bringing it all in. We're kind of wrapping up some of this investigative kind of stuff we're doing. And I would expect shortly that we would have sort of like what our next step is going forward. So to be continued. Let's see. What else can I update on? I never asked the guys before I left what their updates were, but we did have the signal on the new radius intersection. The push buttons get changed today. So I don't know if anybody has noticed. For whatever reason in the original design, the button that was closest to the side you cross was actually for going the other way. Right out here on Decker. So where we did the radius change with the new light. And it was this big dispute about it. It's how it was in the plan. And so then they installed it per plan, but it's not gone well. People have come in and tell me that the light's not working or the signal's not working. And it's because it's counterintuitive, because most of the signals, every other signal in Viroqua, you push the button that's closest to which direction you're going. So today they came out and changed it. We are still going through in-house about where we want to move the signs, because what is ADA compliant is not necessarily how we've set up the rest of them. And so it's kind of like, well, we're following ADA compliance, but that doesn't mean that it's less confusing. Because where we have the other intersections, the push buttons always are on the side as you cross through, whereas we're not supposed to have the button on the warning detectable ramps, which is where most of the lights would push you. And if you look at the other ones, that's how they're set up. So we're kind of going back and forth in-house right now about how we want to turn them or not. So that stay to be continued, but if you hear from people, oh, it's changed, it has changed, we're trying to line ourselves up better. And I think it should have been like that from the beginning. Because not only is it a hard intersection because it's 3-phase, but then when you have buttons that seem like the other one should be pressed, now you're adding another layer of confusion that shouldn't be there. We also did some grounding that needed to happen at all of the signals. The lighting, electrical wasn't ground properly. And then the button on by the cabinet, so it would be the southeast corner, didn't give an audio cue. So you'd hit it and it wouldn't go beep, like the beep beep or whatever. And so it sounds like it wasn't working, but it was. So we did a few things like that. I think that's it for street updates today. Utility updates. We are in the process of flushing finally. So it's kind of seemed like this really long extended period of flushing, but we actually didn't start flushing until later because we were dealing with well 5. Well 5 seems to be operating well. The generator phase switch issue seems to be fine. And so knock on wood, that seems to be doing what we need to do. So then we started flushing after that. And we still have some work we want to do at well 6 with the generator switching over to the generator properly. So we still have that to fix, but I would say we're in a much better spot than we were 2 weeks ago. And then we submitted our PFAS report for our wastewater system. So we have to, after the DNR required that communities submit data every 2 months from the wastewater system about what PFAS was in the system. And then we are well under the limits. So the DNR said we should request a reduction in testing because it's not cheap. And it's also very challenging to do because there's so many potential contaminants in the environment that would cause the sample to be high that it's just, you have to be really, really careful when you're doing it. In any case, so we submitted that and hopefully we'll end up getting a reduction in our testing. On the flip side, sort of a situation we're dealing with on our sludge is that we are very sure that we ended up getting a bad sample on our sludge for mercury. We are normally 5 and under, and the limit is 17. We got a test result back that was 300. And just to kind of put a perspective on it, the sludge tank is 600,000 gallons. So we don't even have anything in the city that would produce enough mercury to make that parts per billion in the tank. So we have to retest it. The bad thing is it's definitely putting the time frame on us to be challenging because we need to land apply before it freezes, but we don't want to land apply based on that results because there's a ceiling limit for things like that. So where we might be able to just apply on enough land, we don't want to make it so that limit then requires us to no longer land apply on that property. So we're currently in a holding pattern. Our sludge hauler knows where we're at, and hopefully we'll have a result next week and we can just go ahead like we normally do. But Brooke called and he's like, oh my gosh. Yep. And it happens. Unfortunately, we've had 2 times this year where we've had different samples where we've had lab error and they were different. Well, I shouldn't say lab error, sample error. We don't know where in the process we have the bad result. And they were different labs. So it's just one of those things where we just had bad luck with it this year. But that happens. And when in doubt, you always resample.
Okay, very good.
I think that's everything.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer questions about anything you have. We have time for a change, so, but otherwise, that'll be my update.
Thank you, Sarah, again, for all you do. Second period for public comment. No one here. Is anyone online that would like to give a public comment?
That one person's still on, but, oh, they went.
Okay, adjournment.
Todd will make a motion to adjourn.
AJ, I'll second.
Motion by Todd, second by AJ. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.